Okay. Welcome back. Another edition of Group Critique Fight Club. Monday Night Raw. Hope everyone's doing well. Sorry for the delay. I was inhaling a bowl of pasta as quickly as I could without making myself sick. And so that is why we are beginning off the hour, but whatever. I do that shit all the time anyways. Hope you are doing well. We are back. We are listening to your tunes. Next week from today, Joseph Allred here with us for your monthly project presentations. So please get this project in. Get your field performances, your field recordings, your creative field recording practices in for the project. Very much looking forward to chatting with Joseph and to hear what they have to say about your work. Awesome. We already got some folks who've done it already. I am so excited to hear y'all and what you got. One of my favorite things is bringing in other folks. And we will be bringing in a lot more folks very, very soon. Just a reminder, once again, we will be pausing our Monday evening streams on the weekly regular schedule in August. The monthly project will continue. The Sunday Group Critique Fight Club will continue. And new things will be coming for the other Monday evening slots. But we will be pausing our twice weekly Group Critique Fight Club schedule and maintaining the weekly schedule over on the Patreon via the Zoom School edition. More things to come on that, but just wanted to remind y'all on that. And once again, before we get into the music, we got to shout outs our grand patrons, our supporters at Tape Trade for holding us down, providing us with some wonderful web infrastructure, lossless in-browsing and on-app streaming, playlisting services, shareable, editable with friends, perfect for EPKs, and sending A and B and C and D, etc. mixes back and forth between you and your collaborators without sharing your data and without supporting evil, Gotta take it where we could find it as far as not overtly not evil technology. So shout outs to Tape Trade. Once again, link in the show notes for free trial. Thank you for supporting us. All right. We have some tunes, I believe, ready to go. I am just going to... one more thing. We got one more submission that I'm going to add to our playlist for the month. Ooh, looks like Google Drive got a new UI. Slightly less clunky. They're getting scared. People like Tape Trade got Google Drive running scared on their in-browser audio playback. We could only dream. We could only dream of that, but I fucking hate using Google Drive to send audio files. Okay. We are starting off with, I believe, Kareem, who won't be able to make it live this evening, but we shall be listening to their work anyways. They write to us, can't make it to the stream tonight, but here's another Tool track excerpt. Max is the same thing from earlier. Yes, I know. Kareem's a student of mine. Some things I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts on. 1. How does the kick feel to you? 2. Does this feel pre-programmed, or does it feel like a live performance? Good questions, and I won't spoil what I know. Let's check it out. Spores by Kareem. Yeah. Yeah. The wet music saga continues and begins to formulate in new ways a continuation of Kareem's what's the word? Toying between the diegetic and non-diegetic sound in creating spacious music, environmental music, let's say. Not ambient music, environmental music. Lovely addition to that, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing more in this. We talked about this privately, but I had mentioned the this does not need to extend into a larger composition. These can remain vignettes, and with a piece like this specifically, it is a rhythm study, but it is a very simple and minimal rhythm study and textural study, and to overproduce or over orchestrate and over arrange something like this, I think would go against its ethos. And my suggestion was just to take it twice as long, take it two and a half times as long, make it a 5-minute piece that slowly evokes these parts, slowly fades them in or introduces them, and really demand some more patience from us, the listener, because I think it's very nice. This is the type of thing that requires patience, and it does so in a pleasing way without developing tonality or even beyond very simple loop-based rhythms here. Keep it to a formula. So the two questions that you had asked, and we got some responses from the chat. How does the kick feel, and does this feel pre-programmed or like a live performance? And so Breathplay says, it feels programmed to me, but not in an unpleasant way. In fact, I really like the uncanny contrast between the sounds being on the grid, yet having internal rhythms. The kick is amazing, don't change a thing about it. Right at the base of the spine and nowhere else. It feels like a gong, like it could be the same instrument as the one in the foreground. Yeah, I was going to say with the kick specifically, it has a medieval quality to it. Almost timpani or concert bass drum sort of quality to it. A mallet percussion instrument in that way, which, sort of evokes along with the space and the textures and the aquaticness of it. It has this can't quite place what time and what era this music is existing, if it's scoring something, and if it's anything narrative, where does this evoke, as far as the space goes, for those who had listened to this, where do you imagine these sounds specifically? I'm curious. And then the other thing that Breathplay said, it doesn't feel, it feels programmed, but not in an unpleasant way. Yep. Stay-at-home cousin said, I feel like the loops are like drifting in and out of sync, sort of a phasing you're imagining there. I think that's what Breathplay was talking about, is that like technically they are in loop on the downbeat, or in like sort of the larger chunks of rhythms, but within each and every sample there are their own sort of self-contained rhythms that are off-grid because they are sampled from something, whether it be Foley sounds that sound like paper or something, that sort of rhythmic crumpling sound that we're hearing. Really, really lovely stuff. But yes, like, it has two things at once. It has both quantized to the grid MIDI roll on this, but within that, because it's sample based, the sounds themselves, they contain their own rhythms that are not gridded at all. It continued on saying, but the length of time it's drifting in and out so long, it really rewards a close listen. Breathplay responds, speaking of environments, this very much evokes a FromSoft game to me, or Blasphemous, if anyone is familiar. I'm not familiar with Blasphemous. I'm going to have to look that up. That's a sort of overall interpretation of all the sounds interacting, not specifically about the kick against everything else. Okay, so still related to the rhythm. Yeah, I mean, I think that if it added any more layers to the rhythms of this, considering how, like, self-contained there are rhythms, or, like, micro rhythms between the larger quantized macro rhythms, if we're gonna, designate one versus the other. I think if we added any more percussive elements to this, it would be overdoing it. It might be going beyond sort of the tastefulness of being able to focus on all these different rhythmic activities at once, despite them being so simple and quiet. That's like the beauty of minimalism in a lot of ways, is like there are a few things happening and they might be going in different directions, and like to allow yourself to like drift off into one direction and then float back and drift into the other, it's a very you hear a lot often in techno when dancing, this is sort of the thought process. Find your groove within the groove, but when it's overproduced, I think it distracts from these moments where you can find yourself, drifting into one sort of smaller pattern within the larger pattern. So I think it's absolutely lovely maintaining this this smallness to the arrangement and the focused repetition, and I think it should go for longer. Blasphemous is like Dark Souls but Catholic. Gonna have to check it. Imagining it being medieval though. Yeah, it's very complete sounding thing, like very captivating and full. I agree. It would be great to have more spotlighting of certain sounds at different times. I think just the patience of allowing each sound to just creep out rather than just like enter loops and then exit, or rather the whole phrase and then exiting. Yeah. Good stuff from Kareem. Lovely, lovely work. All right, what do we got? We got Breathplay. Implemented folks' suggestions from last week. Exciters, more mids in the kicks. Made a few of my own changes as well. I'm definitely going for something raw here, but it still feels a little too raw in places. The silences feel incomplete rather than deliberate to me. I'm starting to plan the arrangement. It'll be double its current length I'll be adding hand-played modulations. There's a shitpost at the breakpoint between sections because I think there ought to be some transitional sound there, but I don't know what it should be yet. Any ideas? All right. Speaking of overproduced techno. All right, Limited Atonement version 2. Let's get it. Beautiful. Really lovely stuff. Love the new rhythmic developments in the first half. Getting some wild shaker patterns going on there that felt new to me. I I'm not sure. Thinking about that Lil Jon what in there, what in the middle. maybe it's some sort of animal sound. It doesn't feel right to put a human in there. Like, this feels very post-human, like it's automata interacting with nature, you know, like imagining like solar punk machinery happening here. It feels so sparse but also organic, like the usage of that kind of wood block sound, like juxtaposing like sort of acoustic modeling or acoustic sounding sort of percussion with much more industrial. There you go. Wait, I love this. Maybe a large cat growl. Yo, exactly. Or just, yeah, like some sort of purring or something there, you know? Absolutely. That would be really fun. Yeah, I don't know. I was just like imagining like Jack and Daxter for some reason. Like, I was just imagining not steampunk necessarily, but like organic mechanisms, like mechanical and yet mechanical devices made out of organic material, or like, you know, that those MIDI triggers that you could apply to drums that basically like turn your live drum set into a MIDI drum kit. This is very Zion rave. Yo, exactly. You know what I'm saying. You get it. You get it. I'm not crazy. um, yeah. That's why I was thinking an animal. I mean, I guess Zion is not a lot of animals down there in running away from them robots. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that this is the Exciter work across the board. Everything, like drums, feel so much more heightened. You know, I'm not going to do a play-by-play A and B test, but y'all can go back and listen to Limited Atonement version 1, also in this playlist, in our little tape trade for the month here, and do a compare and contrast to this one. And you're going to hear a brightened material of harmonic material coming out of the drums, you know? An exciter is what excites, literally saturates the harmonics of a recording, and it sounds fucking sick on the drums. It obviously can be used for like pitch-based harmonic instruments, and it will certainly brighten up and bring more presence via, like, quite literally, like, imagine a waveform and it has like some harmonics in the higher end and stuff, but they're much quieter, you know. An exciter will literally distort these small bands of frequency where the harmonics lie on a signal or a recording, and just like whoop, like tickle them upwards, and it just brings out a richness and presence that is often lost on flatter sounds, especially with percussion, you know. And sometimes like a dud or the thud, you know, sort of just dull sound can be effective for depending on what you're trying to do. But like, I think like because these drums are so sparse, like they just need to all be pronounced. They all just need to cut through. And the Exciter does a really lovely job of doing that here. You wrote, it's really astonishing how subtle it feels when you apply it until you step back and listen to how it affects a thing's presence in a bigger mix. Exactly. You know, it allows, like, harmonics are the things that, like, cuts through a wall of frequency when there are spikes in the harmonics. They shine through. It's like on an amp, you might see the gain knob, you might see the volume knob, and you might see a knob called presence. Especially on those old Fender amps specifically, you'd see that. And that is quite literally like an exciter circuit, you know? It brings out harmonic richness, using, like, in the analog sense, basically like an old school envelope follower. Like, it basically can, like, tell where the harmonics are based on an input. It can understand, like, a signal, and, you know, tickle the highs of that. But like I said, on drums, you might not think that there's much harmonic content in your kick drum. Think again. I recommend everybody trying out new sort of like old school audio engineering effects when teaching themselves in the DAW. real engineering tools. Real engineers are just finding unique ways to distort things, whether it be audibly distorted or just like enough to create some color in the tone. Those little nuanced things, whether you can verbalize what you're hearing or not, those are the things that make a pro mix, and they're crucial, I think, even more so in minimal electronic dance music, because like it's drum worship. You know what I mean? We need to like put these things on the pedestal. We need to put these drums up on the throne, and let them shine, because there's only so few of them. They're so sparse. So this is about showcasing the drums in its most tasteful way. So applying some old school technique is absolutely lovely. Stay at home cousin writes, I like the movements, but I want something else as it gets closer to the end. Like I want it to get slower or louder at the same time or something. So changes, some sort of climactic arc to the piece. I mean, that is the one thing, again, is dynamic range of the piece. Maybe utilizing the tools that you already have, not adding anything else. Like, how can we create something of a slope upwards towards the end? I think I just wanted it rougher, more broken down, and harsher. I mean, hey, there are plenty of ways to tastefully create even more roughness around the edges here. It's such a sparse piece. This is the type of thing that, like, I think toying with saturation is built for this, The silences feel incomplete rather than deliberate to me, still feeling too raw. That's what you had originally wrote there on there. I mean, like, hey, try out Maya's suggestion here. Mess with more ways of saturating into the more audibly distorted, to the point where you start to create like more air. I don't think this is meant to have like long time based effects. I don't think this is meant to be really dubby. I think we could find ways of just imagine this coming through speakers. It is pushing air. Saturate and excite further. Find ways to create, unique tones of saturation, new timbres of saturation. Mess with the plugins that you already have. Try adding more gain and then subtracting the output, toying with gain staging here. I think there are things that we could do to further color our few choice of tools that we're using here, because I don't want to use more than what we already got. The sparseness is beautiful here. I think that might fill up some of that air and be even more deliberate rawness. Because I know you're unsure. It sounds raw, but you think it sounds maybe too wishy-washy. I think it could get more raw. I think it could get more raw, and you're just doubling down, but deliberately so. Saying, yeah, exactly. Really just pushing and pulling what's there. Really like the movement and the space between things time-wise. Yeah, I think that 4 minutes is a good duration for this. I want to hear what's coming. Good stuff. Good stuff from Breathplay. Looking for maybe more at the end. I wouldn't add more voices. Sorry, I missed that comment asking would you want more voices at the end. I think it's more means of processing. More ways of doubling down and saturating to the point of more extreme push, as if you got some analog gear and you're really trying to max it out just to hear like what the timbre of a distorted Fender Princeton reverb amp with full gain and low volume actually sounds like. Like these are the experiments that you can absolutely take some time with the plugins you already own and try out. Good stuff. Good. All right. We got Shams is back. Shamier. What you got for us? Made this with my friend He's on the JV 2080 synth. I'm on guitar and bass. It's supposed to be a Mexican power ballad, and he'll sing on it. Hope you like it. Hell yeah. Love me some Mexican power ballads. Let's go. Oh man. Fucking A. Absolutely loving this. Absolutely loving this. I mean, like, I can hear this in a more in a 90s Latin pop extended Selena universe with some serious chops, lead vocals riding over this. I wish your friend was a girl. I want a female vocalist on this. Maybe they are. I'm also just hearing this like as a time capsule, Mexican or not. It's absolutely lovely hearing the guitar tone itself. Shams, you're a master at this, of sort of bringing out that slightly chorusy, slightly phasey twang in much that you do. But this one in particular, very much deliberately evocative of older sounds, like one of those Roland amps. You know what I'm talking about, with like the gray cover on it. Just has a particular sound to it. And then, like drums as well. Classic choice of sort of drum machine presets on that. I don't know if is there a way we can make, and maybe Maya, you're a Tex-Mex aficionado. You have the lived experience here of this type of 90s, 80s, 90s sort of power ballad sort of song in Mexican pop music. Would it be this sort of, I hate to say like Americanized in instrumentation, but like sort of ambiguous of nationality in it, or would it have, from a percussion perspective, I was imagining some sort of, not necessarily full cumbia cha 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 sort of shuffle to it, but some sort of percussive element, whether it be a guiro or timbale or something that sort of is much more SoCal or Southern Texas, Tex-Mex, Mexicali, in one way or the other. I'm not exactly sure. I'm asking y'all, like, in your experience hearing this type of music, because that was the one thing I was thinking, is just like, is there something we can add from a percussive perspective that could sort of like bring out the Chicano-ness even further in this, or is it really meant to rely solely on the soulful, heartbreaking vocals to come here? Okay, so you wrote, there is a classic soft drum beat style that this is clearly referencing. Okay, so there's precedent for this drum arrangement as it stands, in the sort of more commercialized and obviously inspired by American sort of pop sound, that I'm sure is going to have some wailing over vocally. So it's approaching, but there's some click and clap transients missing. I think it's the vocals that tie it all together. Okay, interesting. Right. I think the drums could use some tightening up. I really like the sounds overall, but some sounds are more washed out than others. I mean, personally, I like that it's kind of vaped out a little bit here. It's toying with its 80s sort of surrealism here. It's 90s sort of commercial schlockiness of it that, you know, taking it a couple steps further on the time-based effects here, you're dealing with more of a vaporwave and / sort of synthwave nostalgia of production style. Obviously, original music here being recorded here, not really vaporwave in that way. More of like Mexi wave, Mexi synthwave sort of thing going on here. Breathplay writes, I actually would love to hear this with a really big halftime adult contempo drums, like you hear in a Celine Dion song. No pressure, but your friend needs to come up with really amazing top line to do this justice. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really like, we're all so, it's just leaving so much to be desired that's riding heavily on the delivery of the vocals here, because like this is clearly meant to be a heartbreaker in one way or the other here. This is meant to be, this is some 12 Coronas deep, your Tio crying in the chair alone when everybody else has already left, you know, singing along to this one. That's what you want. Am I somewhere in the right universe here, Maya? You let me know. That's how I imagine this. Oh man, specifically like someone in their early 50s, like smack dab Gen X, lived this sound in the 90s, you know. You're close. Okay, I'm close. That's good. That's what I want. That's what I want here. Yeah, you gotta let us hear this with the vocals, man. Last thing for Maya, I think it's when the drum fills come in that you need to hear more Latin grooves in there. Okay, cool. So like developing percussion towards the end. Like this is the type of music where we can get epic. We can get climactic towards the end on that final chorus here. Dynamics up the ante towards the end. More percussion. You have permission. More percussion there would be fantastic. Bigger chords, and then obviously more bombastic vocals at the end. Fucking A. We really got to hear the full version of this, Shams, so you better record this soon so we can hear it. Good stuff. Lovely, lovely stuff. All right, wrapping us up, we have Tegan with a new one. Opinions on occasional unmatched BPMs. I sense sore thumbs. Is choosing reverb like wine tasting? I feel like I'm struggling to get cohesion without losing what makes me love individual sounds. Very, very, very nice. I'm loving these tasteful questions. Esoteric knowledge. Ponderings from Tegan. Let's hear it. All patched up. Let's go. Nice. Lovely stuff from Tegan here. Real esoteric stuff. This is the evening of esoteric knowledge. As always. Going through your questions here. Opinions on occasional unmatched BPMs. I mean, there's plenty of unmatched BPMs on here. And it's lovely. I mean, I'm not hearing this as a straightforward song by any means. And I'm certainly not hearing this expecting there to be fully in the grid quantized rhythms. I mean, this has obviously elements of harmony, some melody and rhythm and tempo and things like that, but really those are all fragments of a sort of musical collage of sorts, and a trajectory, a sort of linear manner here, where we're going from beginning to end, not repeating parts, and every single, we might just roll the dice into a new, slightly different zone with every single change here. This is lovely usage of, if we want to call this metric modulation, if we're changing BPMs, if we're changing time signatures. I mean, we definitely are doing all those things. I sense sore thumbs. I mean, I don't if that's I don't know if that's a reference to people chatting about this necessarily, but this isn't the type of, you're not making something that requires thinking about things in a straightforward grid, or a standard grid by any means. I love this question. Is choosing reverb like wine tasting? Sure. In that there's many different types of nuanced colorations and notes, depending on what we have going on here. And that is my biggest concern with this, is that you're using to me, I'm hearing this as a film, right? And even if it's a short film, just 3.5 minutes long, it's going in through taking us into many different places here. And it's all being run through like the same sort of brief, but very reflective and airy reverb. We're all hearing this throughout the entire... No, it's not my air conditioning. I'm talking about during the recording, we're hearing this kind of... Every single sound creates this, and with it, by utilizing the same reverb across the board with everything, it creates this distance. I think the whole thing needs to be a whole lot drier. Like, if you're gonna use one reverb for the entire thing, we need less of it. I think this should be much more intimate. These sounds of like the picking of the guitar, the little scraping of your fingers themselves, and then down to the more glitchy, things like that. All of this to me is very plucky, is very bright and very present in the front. And when we utilize reverb, depending on, especially, it sounds like you're just applying it in your channel, and not creating an auxiliary mix between both dry and wet. You should try that in the very least. If you're going to use the same reverb for the whole piece, put it into a separate channel and attenuate it more. Give us a little bit less. Actually, don't just keep it in one zone, depending on the movement of this, depending on the mood and the closeness and proximity you're trying to evoke from one passage of this piece to the next. You could change your reverb settings. You could change the size, the space. You could use as many different reverbs as you want. Every single passage that you have in this piece can be cut onto its own channel and then sent to its own time-based effects settings, some of which could be very, very loud, very reflective and cavernous, like we have here, and some can be stripped down to basically nothing. And I think you should start on the latter. Not necessarily nothing, but like strip it back in the very least. Let's create some like breadth of distance and proximity. Some things deserve to be way more up close and like a whisper in your ear, while other things can be much more dependent on the wash, let's say. Final thing that you had said, I feel like I'm struggling to get cohesion without losing what makes me love the individual sounds. And I disagree. I think that I am imagining this more as voice memos, as a diary compiled into a 3.5 minute composition. And that's okay. It's really like, it comes down to compositional intent. It doesn't sound like you are going for necessarily something that's meant to just be heard as a performance, but rather as fragments of recordings that often are using the guitar as part of it, but like more of a concrete piece, more of self-sampling to create some sort of linear collage of sorts that relies very heavily on some raw musical recording materials that you made, but is ultimately still, in my ears, heard as a linear sort of work of tape music. One that is continuous, that doesn't really loop or repeat sections or go back, It's just like you're moving on. It's a continuous forward motion here. That's cohesive to me. Describing that out loud to you, and when I heard it raw just now, it really comes down to what is your intention? What are you trying to evoke here? this is my analysis here, listening without much description from you. So if you want more feedback, you should give us a little more background on what your intent here. And that goes for everybody, Compositional intent, if you have it, is important to articulate, especially in these sort of critique contexts, if we want to really be talking about this and developing new sounds and moving forward in interesting ways. Maya writes, "Oh damn, it gets faster. That's stressful. Makes the slower arpeggio part sound sweeter and like a release. I like how intimate the sound feels. Deaf headphones, music, voice notes vibe. Yeah. I mean, there's a lowercase music sort of quality to this for sure. I mean, like, if you wanted to extend this, I would add more negative space. Again, put a fucking dollar in the jar. Max is requesting more negative space here. But that air, the tapiness, the field recording elements, the voice memo sort of quality to this, that could include moments of non-musical material as well. Like, if you treat this like a piece of tape music, then the guitar recordings that you already have here can be one segment of the materials here. We can add more to this. Loving the sounds of just air in the evening, in the suburban or urban environments, just the sound of cars in the distance. There's a hominess to it that I think is most people have some sort of connection with a lot of these sounds, at least in North America. And this is bringing an intimacy that I want you to heighten further, Tegan. I want to hear a new version of this next time we meet. But not next week, because next week is your monthly project presentations, folks. So please, get them in. Joseph Allred coming to us live next week, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see y'all there. Hope to hear some amazing works from y'all. And then we will be back for our final standard Monday Group Critique Fight Club the week after that, on Monday the 27th. And then we will be taking a brief break while we figure some things out on Mondays. But you can always sign up patreon.com/Parrotsky to meet on Sundays as well. I hope to see y'all next weekend on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern for our weekend review. Hope y'all have a wonderful week. Hope y'all stay hydrated. Got some fucking scorches this week, kid. Stay out of the sun. Drink water. Be with your loved ones. Be with your animals. Hope you have a wonderful week. Take care, everybody.